Welcome, everybody, to another week of the Cold Hard Truth on Sports. I'm your host, Matthew Long, with my co host here, Kevin Krest. We got a big night ahead of us. Clearly, we just witnessed probably one of the most entertaining Super Bowls in history. It was the largest comeback in Super Bowl history. It was the first overtime game in Super Bowl history. It's the only one that I can think of where, the Super Bowl MVP's jersey was stolen sometime after the game. So we appreciate you listening in here. As you know, everybody, we got people listening live on Blog Talk Radio right now. Show goes till 10:30 on Blog Talk. If you're over on Spreaker right now, you can download the free Spreaker app. Listen to a whole 3 hours of the show. Also, YouTube Live. You can get the show over on YouTube Live as well. And check out the YouTube channels at Matt Long Sports and at the CHT on Sports. The CHT on Sports is brand new. So the only show that'll be up right now, at about midnight, will be tonight's show. So it's the first one. We're finally getting that built up and going over there. Everything's been at Matt Long Sports on YouTube so far. Again, follow the show at the CHT on Sports. You can get me at Matt Long Sports and Kevin at Kevin Krest. So we try to keep things, try to keep them simple. How are you doing tonight, Kevin? Really? Yeah. You had, you got some, the frame, you need a bigger frame. Oh. I think I'm gonna do that whole interview as Peter Griffin. I'll just, I love Tom Brady and the Patriots. It's amazing. I love them. Shaboopy. No, I probably won't. He's authored or co-authored 3 books. Yeah. It's going to be interesting too because it was, sports agent to front office, now to the journalist. So it's going to be we're hitting all dynamics on the guests the last 3 weeks. So I really look forward to having him on. It'll be is he? Wow. Yeah. Yeah. I do want to get into the Celtics a little bit because they're sitting second in the East right now. So I kind of want to see where he's going, where he's interested in that, and also to kind of feel, you know, the temperature of the room for him as far as where the NBA is, because it really is a parity-free league. We're basically two teams, and then the Spurs are kind of like that next one where somebody could see out of the West. But it's just I kind of want to see that situation. I had been mulling over the whole situation. Again, we haven't really actually gotten into it too deep on the show. We'll get into that second segment. The whole situation with LeBron's cry for help. You wrote an article on it. It's up over on the Cold Hard Truth on Sports. Help wanted. You can also see the original blog at kevkrestsports.blogspot.com. So I kind of want to get into that. I've really been going back and forth on it because if I did one of my shows to the half last week on it, the beginning of last week, and it's interesting because statistically they're better this year than they were last year. More points per game. They're top. He was able to retain his core six guys he wanted. They're missing some of the depth, and some of the depth got flipped around, but they're not any worse off. Dellavedova is basically replaced now by Kyle Korver. So you got better 3-point shooting, which, they're second in attempts, I think, in the league behind Golden State. But, there's a different dynamic that I think I know who is missing from the Cavs. And I'll get into that a little later. And then the other situation is kind of the mojo that, or lack thereof, right now with Golden State, because they used to be in the last 5 minutes of the game. They used to be probably the most. They call it the death lineup. They literally were. I think they were 30-3 last year or something like that when they had that that lineup in. Curry, Thompson, Iguodala. Curry, Thompson, Iguodala, Green, and Harrison Barnes. So basically, Harrison Barnes was replaced by Kevin Durant. So I got a little bit I want to talk about the mojo that was going on there. The pass first distribution to spread the floor, create space, get shots. I don't know. I think you know where I'm headed with that. They could have spent more on calories. That's the funny thing is they got outbidded there. They got outbidded for Dellavedova. And if LeBron doesn't take his pay raise, then they could keep Dellavedova. I probably should pay more. I mean, they already. It's not just a luxury tax. They have the highest payroll in league history. And again, their core six players are still there from last year. So everybody but their starters, And by the way, the Warriors cut Anderson Varejao um, over the weekend. So I tweeted out I would expect for the Cavs to sign him in some sort of a capacity, probably even for like a league minimum. They need the depth at the five, and he knows their offense, and maybe even more importantly, he knows, kind of what the Warriors have been doing. So even if it's just for the recon, it's probably worth the league minimum for them to pick him up. So it'd be interesting to see what they do there. Absolutely. So without ado, our first guest of the evening, former writer for the Boston Globe, author of Boston Herald. Sorry, Boston Herald. We're gonna start a feud now. Uh, and author of several books, Mr. Mike Carey. How are you doing this evening? I'm not doing too bad. It, it, that's the craziest thing about. Well, no, I just want to make a comment. That's just the crazy thing about, addiction. It without a support system there that's just constantly there. It's tough because a lot of time, my wife, she's a clinical psychologist, so she works around this a lot. She's worked in and out of the state and federal prison system. She works for the VA now. Um, but what they see a lot of is you'll have people transitioning out of rehab facilities, and instead of kicking a habit, what they try to do is actually create a different habit. So if they move them from like smack to caffeine or to tobacco or something like that to keep them because the mind it's a issue with development or underdevelopment or damage in the frontal lobe of the brain. So that's where it's focused on. So they're trying to do something that's either less damaging or productive to consume the addictive brain. So it really is, and and all these things that are really coming out are things just within the last decade, just learning more so from the neurological and cognitive side of how addiction and stuff works. Just imagine what if these things weren't so taboo 10 years ago or 15, 20 years ago, how much different maybe some of these guys' lives would be. You know what I mean? Hmm.
Wow.
It was his third arrest in a year, which meant an automatic 1-year jail sentence. And being forced to stay sober probably saved his life back then.
Yeah, so, wow, that's just amazing. We're talking to Mike Carey, the author of Bad News, Story of Marvin Barnes. Mike has also been a long-time journalist, writer of other books as well. And so, I want to put something behind covered the self. And I would say the best days they've had, other than the days the Sixers were working on the titles, Kevin Johnson. That's a crazy group of guys. I mean, those were spirited, competitive athletes going head to head every night. The stuff Michael Jordan was in the league at the time. You had the Rockets, you had the Lakers, great series that won titles, 81, 84, 86. What was that like?
It was a great team. I mean, it was hard to be critical of this team because the years I covered it, which was from 81 until 88, they never won less than 60 games. I mean, occasionally they might have a 59-game win season, but it was just such two things. One, immensely talented, but the chemistry was unbelievable. I mean, they'd get through a 2-hour practice, and Bill Fitch would he loved to have 2-hour practices, and after practice, you'd have 6 or 7 guys hanging around to play pickup. I mean, that's how much they enjoyed basketball, and they enjoyed their teammates. I mean, it was just a good mix. I mean, just a tremendous job of getting people. I mean, started out you had Tiny Archibald, then you had Gerald Henderson at guard, then you had Danny Ainge, Then you had Dennis Johnson. So the guard spots. Then you had Jerry Seasting, who was a heck of a three-point shooter. And that was probably their weakest position was the backcourt. Up front, you had McHale, you had Parrish, you had Bird, you had Walton, Scotty Wedman. They'd run guys at you, and they were just hard to beat. And Bird led by example, and just a fun team to cover. Guys that really enjoyed being there. I remember one year when McHale's contract was up, and they wanted to re-sign him, and he went in and they offered him a good contract, and Kevin turned it down, and he wanted less money than what they offered. And I remember Jan Roque, who was the assistant general manager of the Celtics, was sort of shell-shocked. I mean, here's a guy that says, what you're offering me is too much. And Jan was curious. He said, well, why do you say that? You just, you're first-team All-Star, and, you're the only guy that ever shot 80% from the free throw line and 60% in field goal percentage. And you'll take less money than what we're offering. He said, because I want there to be a clear difference between what Bird makes and what I make. Because Larry Bird is the best player in basketball, and I don't want to put myself on that level. I'm still working to get there. And just a fantastic bunch of guys, unbelievable talent, unbelievable chemistry, and they had fun. Every game was fun for them. And they had two great coaches, Bill Fitch, and then they had Casey Jones. A little different in style. I mean, Fitch was brought in. He was great for young players. I mean, he could, he had Bird, who was, young. You had Maxwell, another guy that I forgot to mention up front, but Maxwell was a great player.
UNC Charlotte. That's right. At UNC Charlotte, right?
Absolutely.
Cornbread. Yeah, exactly.
And a perfect fit for that team because Maxwell didn't care how many times he shot the ball. He was like the garbage man. He'd hang around the lane and grab the rebounds and put in rebound baskets and never complain about his role. Same with Parrish. I mean, Robert Parrish, and I give credit to Bill Fitch for this. When Parrish played at Golden State, he was not a running center. And Fitch rode Robert Parrish every day at practice. And Parrish didn't understand why until maybe his third year with Fitch. And then he understood what Fitch was doing by, just running and running and running because Robert Parrish was probably the quickest center in the league. But the thing about Parrish that made him unique is when you have guys like Bird and McHale who each want to take 15 to 20 shots and maybe more a game, you have to find that guy that's willing to say, I don't care if I shoot the ball 4 or 5 times. I just want to win. And that was Robert Parrish. And he was certainly capable of scoring 20 points in a game, but he didn't care about how many shots he wasn't a guy that would go to the stat sheet after a game and say, dang, I only got 7 shots. I want my shots too, fellas. He never said that. And it was just that chemistry that, for a period of 6 years, they were unbelievable. And I think it would have extended, until I think it could have extended until 87 if Walton didn't have another, which turned out to be career-ending injury. And of course you had Len Bias's death.
Right.
With Bias on that team, there's no telling how long they could have kept on winning championships.
Yeah, I think Bird could have lasted longer too, right? If you were dealing with the minutes for him, and that's basically actually a really cool thing about that Celtics team. 3 of those guys, Ainge, Bird, and McHale, ended up in coaching front office positions. I don't know, Danny, did Danny Ainge coach? I can't remember Danny Ainge coach. The Bird,
sure.
McHale coach.
Yeah, Danny coached in Phoenix.
And,
Yeah.
So they all coach, and they all became general managers. And that's amazing that party lineup produced pretty good front office. What do you attribute that to? Was that the Red Auerbach legacy? Was that the organization itself? Just how strong it was? What do you attribute that to? That's a kind of that's an odd thing.
Well, I think all those players took a little from Red. And one of the things that was immediately clear to anybody that played for the Celtics is that Red did not offer advice to the players. He might say something outside of practice, but Red would never. He thought he would be undermining the coaches if he ever pulled the player aside and said, "Do it this way." You know, you're making a mistake. He was a personnel guy, and he did a great job of mixing and matching. I mean, he constantly was making moves. Constantly. The trade that brought Parrish and McHale to Boston for Joe Barry Carroll and a guy named I think it was Ricky Smith. That was a trade that set up everything. I mean, of course they had Bird and they had Maxwell, but that trade really gave them a front court that was together for 9 years, and just unbelievable. But I think you also had three guys that had basketball minds. I mean, McHale, great teacher. Unfortunately, when he got into coaching, and he loved coaching, he really did. I mean, he loved coaching Houston, but unfortunately, I mean, one of the things that when Kevin left coaching, you could see. I mean, he had a 3-inch screw in his foot from his playing days, and he was in constant pain when he coached. So that was one thing. Bird, same thing. I think Bird liked coaching, but again, he had back problems. He hated all the flights. He was really suffering from back problems. Ainge, on the other hand, I mean, Danny just loves being a GM. I mean, around the league, he's known as Trader Dan. His draft choices, he's made some draft choices that people have been awfully critical of. Jaylen Brown, a couple other first-round picks that, but fortunately, he's made some great trades. I mean, getting Isaiah Thomas.
I was going to talk about him. I want to talk about him because of all the guys in the league, that guy's on fire right now, isn't he?
He is. And I don't think it's a 1-year deal either. I mean, he just gets better and better. And, when his contract comes up, he's going to get a max deal. And I think he deserves it. And, again, that was a trade. That wasn't a draft thing. And it was a great move by Ainge. And, I don't, to be honest with you, I mean, Danny's made some draft picks that people have been critical of.
Yeah.
He doesn't care. I mean, he does not, he doesn't care about media criticism. He's going to do what he thinks is best for that team. And, that's just the way he is.
And, that's kind of the thing. Like, when he got rid of Walker, that's really when people were like, oh, wait, I don't know where he's going with this. But, a few years later, he ends up getting Ray Allen and Kevin Durant. And I don't think that was completely by chance. I think some people say, oh, the moon and the stars aligned for once. Yeah, or Kevin Garnett, my bad. I don't think it was by chance. I think he looks at it. He looks at things from outside the box, and And that's what, really the great GMs, coaches, minds that we see in any sort of industry, they bring in those out of the box types things. It's just, it looks crazy, but if you take time to step back and look at the painting, the madness makes sense, And I think it's just one of those things over time. It's been able to build it back up, and I think he felt that it was the right time to kind of blow things up, bring in a new coach, bring in some new young talent through the draft, and now we see him sitting second in the East right now. Maybe not quite there to really contend with Cleveland, but still, it's progressing. It's moving in the right direction. So.
Going out and getting Brad Stevens was a stroke of genius. Here's this guy who's a college coach, young guy, no NBA experience, not a member of the good old boys club, and Danny wanted him. I mean, he paid him big money to jump to the Celtics, and as Brad Stevens said, if it was any other team, I probably would have turned it down. But here's the Celtics with all their traditions, and and he said, I'm not going anywhere. My job is with the Celtics, and I'm not looking. I don't think I'll ever be looking for another job. But again, I mean, Danny has made these type of moves. Trading Garnett, trading Pierce. It at the time. It didn't seem like a major deal because those guys were at the end of their career. But what he got from Brooklyn was robbery. I mean, Celtics are going to have to, they're going to end up with Brooklyn's pick, and Brooklyn is definitely going to. I don't see any way. Brooklyn has such a lousy record. I don't see any way that they're going to have the worst record in the league, which means the Celtics are going to be guaranteed one of the top 3 picks, and they'll have the best shot of getting the top pick. And I know it's a guard-heavy draft, but it wouldn't surprise me if Danny, who I think is looking for a rebounder, it wouldn't surprise me if he traded that pick away to get a veteran, rebounder who can run and shoot the ball. I mean, he's not just going to trade it away for anybody, but it wouldn't surprise me if he did trade it away if he doesn't find that rim protector in the draft. But he absolutely stole Brooklyn blind. I mean, he ended up with two of Brooklyn's draft picks and the right to swap picks in another draft. So it just was, for getting rid of two. I don't mean this to say that Pierce and Garnett, I shouldn't say get rid of, but I think the time was right. It was perfect timing for the Celtics, and I think what Danny got for those two guys, and they were great players for the Celtics, but looking at the future, I think Danny made a great move, and I think after this year's draft, people are going to start giving him a lot more credit than he's gotten for assembling this team.
And that actually wasn't a bad trade for Washington because they brought Pierce in there where they need some maturity and leadership. And you look at that team, that's a team on the run. The Wizards are a dangerous team in the East. I think that getting Paul Pierce at that time probably helped us get over a little bit of a hump. I want to ask you a question. I talked about this last week, and Matt put up on the site. What do you take of LeBron's histrionic and public outcry for, I need a point guard, I need more help, I need this? What is your take on that? And if you were inside, you were in locker rooms, and you were covering these things, what do you take of that in terms of what's happening in Cleveland and what LeBron's trying to do?
Well, it doesn't surprise me because of what happened down in Miami. I mean, you got LeBron, you got Wade, you got Bosh. They were crowning themselves champions. The day that they had that huge press conference, and all three of them are, they staged this big show for the fans and everything. I agree with Charles Barkley 100%. Stop whining. Make the best of what you got, and it's not that bad. I mean, they have a talented team, and he's crying about how they need point guard help. And I just, I think I agree with Barkley. At times, he, for a guy with all his talent, he comes off like a crybaby to me. I think he's a tremendous player. As Barkley says, he's the best player in the game. But when he goes off on these things like, we need a point guard, or, this past week there were rumors that he was saying, get Carmelo Anthony for, and give away Kevin Love. Now, I don't believe that LeBron ever said that, but there were rumors that was behind the push for Melo. And to be honest, I'm not a big Carmelo Anthony fan. I don't think he plays a lick of defense. He shoots so much that you got 3 or 4 guys just standing around watching him. And I just don't think he's ever going to win a championship. I don't like his game. Great scorer, but you can drop your voice after that because I just don't see it. I mean, I just don't think he's a team player. I don't think his game is going to fit in with any team that's going to win a championship.
Yeah, I agree. And you look at Kevin Durant going to Golden State and fitting in pretty well. That's a whole different dynamic because Kevin Durant's more of a team player, makes it better. But the NBA has all of a sudden become a big deal. And are you still representing NBA players, or are you still in that business, or have you?
No, I started in that business by representing Danny Ainge, and then I ended up representing. I represented Dennis Johnson for 1 year. The last year he played. I represented a guy named Derek Strong. And I represented a guy named Vince Askew, and the rest of my clients were overseas guys. And when these guys gradually retired, I just the fun has gone out of it. I had a lot of kids playing in Europe, but I wanted to do something different, and I decided to go back to writing. And I wrote a book about the Celtics play-by-play man, Johnny Most, who was a legend in New England. And I wrote a couple other Celtics-related books and did a couple of ghostwriting things. But, the Marvin Barnes book is the one I'm most proud of because I think it shows what a tremendously talented player he was, but it also talks about the power of addiction and the destruction of addiction. And I've had a lot of players, Gus Gerard, who had many of the same problems Marvin had during his playing career, who, unlike Marvin, was able to turn his life around and ended up being an addiction counselor in Houston, and just a tremendous person. I'd love to do a book on Gus because he just was he's just a great person to get to know. And,
wasn't Gus Gerard on the Virginia team that won the ACC tournament in 1976? I think he was on that team. Was that the time? Was he earlier? Was he before that?
No, he was on the team. His last year was as a junior was in 1974.
Okay,
but he was a heck of a player. I mean, he came out and the Spirits offered him a $900,000 contract for, I believe it was 3 years, which was great money for for a junior eligible. And of course, the NBA didn't have an undergraduate draft. So Gus, came from a small town. His family didn't have much money, and he took the contract. And unfortunately, he ended up in the same boat Marvin did. I mean, he had a little longer career, but his stats were just like Marvin's. I mean, he had a great. This year had a all-rookie front court. They had Marvin Barnes at center. They had Maurice Lucas at power forward, and they had Gus Gerard at small forward. And that was their, all-rookie front court. And they had a great team. They really did. They had a lot of talent. But like I say, I mean, in writing the book on Marvin, what I found interesting is, here's two guys who went down the exact same path. And Gus, at one point, they both went to, they both had their problems with addiction. Gus Gerard was so, he had lost his family. He had two children. And at one point, he's staying at a friend's house in Ohio, and he's so depressed that he decides he's going to go out and buy a bottle of vodka and $100 worth of cocaine, and his game plan is to drink the cocaine, drink the booze, ingest the cocaine, pull his car into a garage, pull the garage door down, and kill himself. And he does all of that. He gets in the garage. He puts the chair back, the seat back, and passes out. And about a half hour later, he's groggy, but he wakes up, and he can't understand why he hasn't succeeded in killing himself. And then he realizes he had forgotten to fill the gas tank, and the car had run out of gas. And he's sitting there, and he goes, it just, here I am trying to kill myself, and I can't even do that right. And he goes into the house, and he's trying to gather himself. He's still a little bit groggy, and he sees a Parade magazine on the kitchen table. And on the cover of the Parade magazine is a picture of John Lucas, another former ACC player and a friend of Gus's. And it talks about Lucas's problems with cocaine and how he had overcome them, and how he was now running this rehab center down in Houston. And he called Lucas up, said, I need help. Lucas paid for him to take a bus ride from Ohio down to Houston. And that was the last time Gus Gerard ever used drugs. And he turned his life around. His children forgave him, which Gus is eternally grateful for. Gus played basketball in Mexico at age 41 because the team that he was playing for offered him $120,000, and Gus sent that $120,000 to his kids so that they'd have a college fund. And he's just a tremendous person, and he was one of the lucky guys that didn't let addiction get the best of him.
And John Lucas is a great story in itself. I mean, you've got a couple books going on there. John Lucas, University of Maryland, the same thing. I mean, he was a two-star sport. John Lucas was a heck of a tennis player, I believe, as well as a basketball player. So those are great stories. So your book, Bad News, The Turbulent Life of Marvin Barnes, I'm looking at it right now, available on Amazon.com. I'm assuming it's probably available in some bookstores as well. People should really check this out. And the forward by Bob Costas. Now, and I'm going to end with this. But how did you get Bob? How do you know Bob Costas? Are you guys familiar with each other? What prompted him to be compelled to write the foreword for this book?
No, as a matter of fact, I had never met or talked to Bob Costas in my life, but I had to interview him for the book, and he, was just so knowledgeable about the spirits, and Marvin and him had a great relationship. So as I progressed writing the book, I would ask Bob's opinion on something, or Bob, how do I get in touch with so and so? Because Bob actually kept in touch with every player on the Spirits. He was fresh out of Syracuse University, and doing the radio play-by-play for the Spirits was his very first job. And the more I talked to him, and the more I sent him, when I finished the manuscript, or thought I was finished the manuscript, I'd send it to him and ask him for his feedback, and he would make suggestions, but he was always so positive about the book. And I knew he had stopped doing forwards for books. So many people are asking him that I didn't even ask him. And then I was having a casual conversation with him, and he said to me, "Who's doing the forward for the book?" And I said, "Well, I was just going to write a preface. I didn't have anybody in mind." And he said, "Well, I'd like to write it." And that was pure gold from my point of view. And I said, that's great, And I think his forward just sets the tone for the entire book. I mean, he describes his relationship. Describes his relationship with Marvin, and he's become a great friend of mine, and I'll always be in debt with him, because he just did so much for me. And it's a book I'm really proud of. I mean, I've done other books that I liked and I'm proud of, but this one really, and it was a 7-year deal with all the stops and starts due to the twists and turns in Marvin's life. But it's not just another mindless sports book. There's a message there about addiction, and about what young athletes should be aware of. Money, the squandering of money. That's Marvin certainly did that in a hurry, and again, just casual drug use, and that's what it started out, with Marvin. Just once a week he might have a bit of cocaine or something, but by the end of the second year, he was totally addicted. And I'm proud of this book. That's all I can say.
Well, I look forward to delving more into it when it gets done. I'll make sure to reconnect with you, Mike. Thanks for being on the show. Awesome information, and just the insight and the background, and really enjoyed having you. Hopefully we'll going to reconnect again. It was awesome. Thanks a lot.
It's been a lot of fun for me. Thanks, guys.
Yeah. Okay, thank you, Mike. And when I get done with the book, I'm connected with you, so I'll give you some feedback. I'm looking forward to it.
Okay, Kevin. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mike.
Take care.
Okay, you too.
All right.
What a trip. We're on a roll here, man. These are some people that have some incredible background in sports.
You're telling me.
It's a lesson, man. This is awesome.
Yeah, and that's the thing, is like, you want to, that's a blessing of being on, internet radio, though, online radio, and doing it, streaming, and not on, he was on for what, 45 minutes? Hour, right at an hour. So that would have been what, like 4 breaks to keep him on that long? And who's going to wait for 5-6 minutes? No, that would have been way too long. So we'll continue our opening our show with these documentary series. So, but
the time that the show's on, I think
Yeah.
it's worth to have, and just to get to give you some insight to the guests about of how we go about variety. And so you want to make sure you get them at a time that's okay for them to go too late. That's not great, but these guys are all willing to come on. He was what a. I mean, Lee Steinberg, Eric Edelstein, and Mike Carey. What a! I can't wait to get these things up on the podcast for people to share around because this tonight is unbelievable. I mean, talking throwing names out there, it's like Bill Walton, Nick James, know these guys, talk to them. For sports fans, wow. They call them up and talk to them on the telephone, or whatever. It's an amazing, amazing character, and he's so proud of the book. And we do Marvin Barnes. It's just, I thought it was a tremendous insight into the MLB.
And it's nice that because sometimes it gets it's difficult when you have people come on and getting a story out of people. But that's the great thing is you get those great guests like we've had on the show in the past few weeks and we've been on. Show is going on since 2013, so this is going on the 4th year. So October will be 4 years on the air. But it's nice when you get people on that are just really interested in having a conversation, telling a story, and getting such knowledgeable people like like Mike Carey and the Boston Herald. For several years, writing books, just being involved in the culture and the life revolving around the sport is so much different than a lot of what we see with writers and stuff like that. So it's always interesting to kind of see where people are going to go and what you can learn, stuff that you never thought. It's those little stories that really have nothing to do with basketball, but have everything to do with basketball that he tells that makes it so much more dynamic and you appreciate on a different level.
Yes, in fact, I just got a message from Mike that he had a lot of fun tonight too. So he just responded and said it was fun for him too. So that's where it really is awesome. That we're letting people hear him, and he's very gracious and thankful that he can be on the air as well. So that is a great thing that he did. That's just amazing today.
Yeah, absolutely. So we need to go to break real quick. On the other side of that break, though, I want to get a little bit more into what we were talking about where the NBA is right now. And then, of course, we're going to need to get into the Super Bowl.
Yeah, that sounds good.
It's kind of a requirement. So, all right, stay tuned. You're listening to the Cold Hard Truth on Sports here on the Go Long Media channel on blogtalkradio.com. Back for more right after this.
Hey, all this is Matthew Long with the Cold Hard Truth on Sports and the Triangle Offense. I just wanted to take some time to tell you about Hesper. It's a wonderful company. They've been around for 20 plus years. They have over 11 branches in Florida. Great licensed, certified specialists, and guess what? They do more than pest control. They also take care of termites as well as lawn care, sprinkler systems, and much, much more. Call today. 378232.
WCSB Sports and MRN Broadcasting, powered by blogtalkradio.com.
A long time ago, there was an ancient prophecy from the outermost edges of space that knows no boundaries. fall, that as we know it, will not be the same. One man, one weapon. Critics are calling it the best comedy of the year. From the makers of the internet, this is his last chance to save the world. But then, the world does not exist.
Man, forget all that. Just download my special, man, or get the DVD when it's available.
They will search for answers.
The link's posted below.
RichardReeseLive.com. All right, welcome back to the Cold Hard Truth on Sports. Matthew Long with my co-host Kevin Krest. If you're just joining in, you just missed an hour-long mini documentary, basically, interview with the great Mike Carey, author, former writer for the Boston Globe or Boston Herald. I just want to read. I got the Globe on the mind. I don't know why.
So that's the more. I'm not even sure the Boston Herald's around here. So the Globe is.
It is at heart, Kevin.
Famous as, I'm trying to bail you out here, man.
I appreciate it. I've stepped on my own, you know what, before, so it's not stepping on it so bad. It's when you sit on it. It's just that makes it even worse. Anyways, so.
It was just, and for those people that are listening to this, I have it up on a podcast sometime.
Oh, you know it.
Tonight.
Oh yeah, definitely.
For people that missed it, you have to listen. If you're a sports fan, you have to listen. Just you got to go back and find the Lisa Steinberg.
Oh, that's up. That's up.
They're throwing names around like, they're throwing names like Larry Bird and Troy Aikman.
I know, right? Hey, I like how Lee Steinberg was just, yeah, he was like casually like, yeah, I manage Oscar De La Hoya, me and Cuban Gooding Jr., he was just like, I set him straight. I know. How do I get a ticket to watch? We're having internal orgasms with the thought of it. And he's like, oh, yeah, it's just casual stuff, Really? I know, right?
And these are people that, so these are people that are passionate about certain things. Steinberg is passionate about philanthropy and the brain injury things, right? Mike Carey got passionate about telling the story of the seriousness of addiction. And so these are guys with serious passion. They want to change things for the better. And so these aren't self-promoters. These aren't guys out there just saying, hey, look at me, buy my book.
Yeah.
Right? They're talking about very serious ways. They experienced it. Mike Carey, Marvin Barnes lived in his house almost to his death.
Yeah.
Saw that firsthand. These are serious people. So I have a lot of respect for those are the kind of guys that I like to talk to because the depth that they give, the interview and the responses is just so amazing. It's wonderful to just sit back and listen to it.
And our interview from last week too, with Edelstein. You know, yeah, Eric. With Eric, the article I was writing on these developmental leagues that we have coming up here. There's 3 developmental leagues that are current. Actually, they did a great little snippet in Sports Illustrated, because you get Sports Illustrated too, right? I think we're the last of 10 people that actually get Sports Illustrated, but it's not a doctor's office, or a car dealership. But yeah, it's in the issue. It was last week's issue. I believe it was last week's issue. It had a snippet. It broke down the 3 divisions, and I'm working on an article for that. But just thinking of because again, when he brought up the liability umbrella alone is enough to put the league out of business. How do you afford it? It's just,
that was interesting, wasn't it?
Yeah.
That really was. That was just things we haven't heard from a football perspective. It's kind of a baseball is a whole different deal. It's not that injury, possibly injury, but it makes you realize that they obviously have some insurance responsibility for the minor league athletes, so they would start dealing with it in football.
I wonder who's underwriting it.
As a front office person for a minor league franchise, and not just baseball now, but he's also has soccer. Starting next month. So I'm hoping to have Eric back on after the soccer game. I'm hopeful that we'll be able to get back out there and get back on.
Yeah, soccer's starting to make its full swing now. It's coming into swing.
The Americans, well, you have the World Cup qualifying in the second leg of the qualifying in March, and so then this season will start, and so it'll be interesting to see how that franchise does here in Reno. So all 3 of the guests we've had the last 3 weeks have been very, very interesting, compelling. A good listen for people who didn't listen to them. They need to go out and listen to it. I've gotten very good feedback from the people that I've sent it to that know about sports, and were very, very impressed with the nature of the questions and the guests themselves. So it's been a lot of fun. I'm hoping to continue that. I've got to beat the bushes again this week to see if now we can. The one tonight's going to be hard to beat for next week. That Mike Carey brought a lot to the table in terms of knowledge, and you want to segue with the NBA. He's an NBA guy, so certainly brought a lot of experience. And you want to talk about the NBA. We touched on it earlier. Cleveland's still sitting at the top of the roost in the East. But
they are.
It's a little tighter. I mean, Toronto, Atlanta, Washington, Boston. I'm not sure right now that Cleveland's a lot like they were last year to run into the East. I think it could be a little more difficult. I think they still will. They're still my pick, but I don't know that they can afford a couple of slip-ups, because Washington has played well at times this season. Atlanta with Dwight Howard.
Well, don't get me started on Dwight Howard. I'm not a fan at all, nor have I ever really been a fan of Dwight Howard.
But he was a good addition to the Hawks. Made it better. You have the Wizards with John Wall. You have the Celtics, Isaiah Thomas, and what Brad Stevens was able to do there.
Yeah.
Mike Carey. So we're saying,
Isaiah Thomas wasn't he the last pick? Isn't? Yeah, it was a guy that you kind of write off.
He's the smallest player in the league. Currently the smallest player in the league. And when you watch what he can do off the dribble, he can shoot from long range, and he can take it in there in the trees off the dribble. And that kid's amazing. And so if you get a hot guy like that in the playoffs, if you turn a game around, and as we know, the Cavaliers are injury prone. So Kyrie Irving and Kevin Love, either one of those is exactly a stalwart when it comes to avoiding injuries. So as thin as the lost Anderson to the season, and J.R. Smith's going to be back. But they're going to have to manage those playoffs pretty well. They're going to have teams gunning for them. And those teams gunning for them have nothing to lose.
Here's the thing.
Toronto,
With their lineup, obviously, what he's looking for is more depth. He doesn't have that depth at scoring like he felt like he did last year. Guys to take in more minutes. But here's the thing. If we look at the game just last night where LeBron had like 12, 13 assists, 17 assists, yeah. That's what they need. That's what they need from him.
well, it's like one guy said, I forget what comment they said, at the end of the day, if he can turn it up, he can take it up a notch, and nobody else can take it.
Exactly.
Game 7 last year, when he came down and made that block and took over the game, it won the championship, almost single-handedly at the end of the game. That's what he does.
But see, here's the thing: is like even the 37 points. He didn't need to score 37. He did, but I think because what he's saying he's missing is a distributor. I think if he takes the time to step back and be the distributor to get other people, again, because this is what really made it good for them when he was in Miami and they won the titles and at points last year. Yeah.
Not just for him.
Yeah.
At the moment, and listen, I don't think it's what he's saying, but I do agree with Mike Carey as well as Barkley. Stop whining, shut up publicly, go to your general manager and say, hey,
Yes, exactly.
I think this is what we need.
Exactly.
But don't take it to a public forum. But take it to a public forum, you just look like a whiner. And not only that, you don't give your front office any leverage when it comes to making trades. You should be out there going, we're cool, we're good. We can make this work, so that your front office has some leverage when they go out to make a trade. Now, whoever trading partner is going to go, oh no, I know LeBron wants really badly, so I want an extra draft pick, and that just hamstrings your front office. And from in my estimation, that's how I see it.
And then, I mean, Love put up a pretty good amount of points last night too, right? He had a pretty good game.
The three of them, they average 70 points a game. That's 23 points a game per person, and that's pretty close.
I'm sorry, I'll take Kevin Love over Carmelo Anthony any day.
Oh, Kevin Love has learned to play because he had to. LeBron beat on him. He plays both ends of the court. I'll take Kevin Love any day of the week. He's more active on offense. He moves without the ball. Yeah, I'll take him, and he's younger.
Yeah, 4 years. About 4 years younger, I think.
4 years younger. Yeah, I'll take him any day of the week. Now, Jay's is looking for Anthony because they're buds, right?
Yeah.
The guy knows he can control him. And so, but I don't see any way that general manager for the Cleveland Cavaliers gives up Kevin Love for Carmelo Anthony. I don't see that happening in a million years. No matter what it is that LeBron James wants. Because at the end of the day, you might be able to get Anthony for a fire sale later on because the Knicks don't want him.
Yeah, they don't want him.
I'm not sure what Phil Jackson's doing. I don't know what. I mean, I have no idea what Phil Jackson's doing in New York. The team's a train wreck.
I know what my Lakers are doing in New York. They're beating the Knicks.
Which tells you just how bad the Knicks are. The Lakers are their own train wreck, although they probably have a.
Settle down now, Kevin. Settle down now.
Any bus has to get rid of Jimmy's bus, which is always hard.
Well, she has Magic in the house as her personal liaison now between the front office and the front court. Hopefully. Well, that's the thing is this year is I guess this year is like his last year where he said I have 4 years or 3 years. It was 3 years where I'll have it back to where it's in championship contention. I think they're like second or third to last in the West. I don't know. That's what they were looking at. We have a chance of beating UCLA, who actually has a good squad this year, by the way. UCLA.
It's certainly not the NBA. I will assure you of that. Not the National Basketball Association. So they're right now there's only 2 teams in the entire league with less than the Lakers. Not to remind you of that painfully as a Lakers fan, but
Yeah.
the Suns and the
Nets. And
the 76ers have more wins. They have the same number of
same number of wins. Be careful now. But they also have a dynamic guy in Embiid. That guy is he is a monster. Like he came out. I watched him on that game they played when he played in LA. I was just like, yeah, the Lakers need this guy. Pay him. They're looking at moving Okafor, you know that? Because of Embiid. Well, because Embiid and Okafor are both a 5. They usually don't. They split minutes. Yeah, they're off guards. And that gets into the kind of the point that I was talking about a little earlier at the beginning of the show. Some of that mojo has changed. And Kevin Durant, the more and more I see Kevin Durant, each year he just seems to be more and more selfish as a person, as a player, whatever it is. In the Cavs game, in the loss against where the Cavs are the Grizzlies the other night, where they kind of imploded. They haven't been closing out games like they have been, but instead of making that pass to spread the floor out at the end of the game, he held the ball, dribbled it out, chucked up a shot and missed, and Memphis ended up winning in overtime. Kind of what the Falcons did. They dribbled it out when they should have just, taken the W. Nobody's complaining. Yeah.
But here's the thing: when you're the Warriors and the Cavaliers and the Spurs, and I'll put those 2 teams in a class by themselves, basically, they can do a lot of stuff in the regular season to just try and prepare for the postseason. So maybe Durant was doing that just to kind of throw people off their scouting and going, well, what are we going to do? What's going to happen in the postseason? Because the Warriors are in. The Rockets are playing pretty well. I mean, they're in the conversation. But talk about the teams that have the luxury to play who they want, when they want, and sit guys out and play them for the postseason. It's the Spurs, Warriors, and Cavaliers. They can do that.
Yeah.
Like, they don't have this player. And they also can't turn it on. Listen, when the Warriors want to score 140 points, they can score 140 points. They got 4 guys discounting Draymond Green. I mean, they can put up some points. Look at last night. Cavaliers go, wait a second. We're not going to let these guys put their 10th consecutive win up at home on us. We're going to take them down, and they did. Even though LeBron fouled out in overtime.
And Kyrie still played well.
Well, because they tried to win it. If the Cavaliers try to win a game, there's only two other teams that they probably can't beat if they really try to win. And actually did beat the Warriors. Did the Cavaliers beat the Warriors at Christmas Day? They did.
Yeah, no, again, goes back to Kevin Durant being kind of selfish. He tries to. Well, they were also in his defense. They were force feeding him the ball there towards the end, and you know, who expected Richard Jefferson Jeffries to play that kind of a defense? Everybody thought he was going to retire last year. He came back signed a 2-year deal.
Yeah, but you look at like the Rockets in their third, you know, 3.5, 4 games behind the Spurs, but the Rockets have to try to win every game. Popovich doesn't care. You know, he'll win what he has to get into that, you know, second seed. He'll rest guys, do everything else. The Cavaliers are going to, you know, they're going to manage their way to the top seed as opposed to play their way to the top seed. It's a big difference, right?
Yeah.
Because they don't have to. They can just manage it. The Warriors are the same thing. They can manage their way to the top. So you know, I think a lot of LeBron James stuff is just positioning. He's done this for years. And I'll just say he's done things nobody else has done. The Celtics of the 60s. LeBron James has been to the 7 finals, 8 finals.
Yeah, in a row too.
I mean, he took a bad Cavaliers to the final when he was with them the first time, right?
Yeah, was that Mo Williams?
Yeah,
That was the second best guy. It was Mo Williams.
I was the backup point guard on that team. You probably don't really remember that.
The only guy still wearing the classic short shorts. I know. I remember.
Oh yeah, that's how bad you were.
It burned my retina.
The backup point forward, so I never got to play because I was playing behind LeBron. But that's how bad you were.
Way behind LeBron.
My point. But my point is that LeBron James did not get, you know, very much long. I'm unapologetic. I think he's great. Have some whining, but I'll say this though. He said, I've never done this, I've never done this, I've never done this, I've always done this, always done this, always done this. He's right. He's a model citizen in the NBA, except for leaving Cleveland after his second contract to damn good with pretty players around.
But that's the thing is, like, as soon as don't use Tom Brady because Tom Brady doesn't get people put around him either. But
I'm saying it. If it was Peyton Manning saying that, or if it was anybody else saying that, they'd have been like, oh, you got a point. But for some reason, that's the way he did it. ESPN set him up. They set him up badly. But guy's a model citizen. And it's not that, but he goes back to Cleveland. He goes back to an owner that trashed him when he left. And said, I have loyalty to my city. I want to bring a championship to Cleveland. And guess what? He did. Now, when you back it up, there's not a whole lot of criticism. You know, one thing to talk big and not deliver, but you backed it up. Went there and brought the title to a city that had won in 60 years. 50 years. I got a lot of time. I got a lot of room for LeBron. I think he's a bad rap. He's been coming on himself. I agree with that. But, boy, you could be a better player right now. Give me a better record. Who has a better record than him?
No, I mean, I'm not going to just debate that. No, I mean, it doesn't matter. I don't think there's anybody better in the league than him. But I do think that there are, better things and different things that team needs to do to win a title. If not, they're going to end up losing again, and it's going to be, he's going to make it seem like there's hell to pay there. And I mean, it's going to get back more into what people are whining again. It's legitimate what he's asking for. Get us more help. Let's move this around. But I agree, it shouldn't be public. But to kind of hit back on the whole instance for the Warriors, I mean, so many people talk about Durant and Curry, but I think the MVP of that team is really Klay Thompson. He is the most valuable guy on that team, without a doubt.
Kind of the glue, right? Kind of the glue. But yeah, they play well together. I mean, I don't watch a lot of. I do not watch a lot of regular season NBA basketball. I just don't. I'll start watching. I watched the Christmas Day games, which were good. Allocation was listen to a game because I don't actually have a team. I'm not an NBA. I've never followed an NBA team closely. I have a hockey team I follow, which is the Washington Capitals, and they're playing fantastic, by the way. And they'll play fantastic until the second round of the playoffs. They'll lose again, but we all know that because we're Caps fans. And I have a football team I follow. It's the Washington Redskins. I'm an Atlanta Braves fan, but I don't have a team in the NBA that I've ever followed. And so I've kind of adopted the Cavaliers because I like LeBron James. I like the style of play. I like the way that they have to grind it out. But I don't watch a lot of it because I just don't have a lot of time. So I like to watch college basketball. And so I don't watch a lot. So I don't have a good sense on a night in, night out basis how well they're playing, what they're doing. I'll contest to that. But the games I do watch, LeBron James takes nights off, but doesn't play. When he plays, all in. I have a problem with the players.
Did you?
That's probably a really good topic for another night.
Yeah.
That whole, resting players and stuff. But I think there's also a scheduling issue. Is that back when Michael Jordan played all those games in a row, they didn't play back to back. They scheduled them down so they get the weekend games and play the Friday, Saturday, or the Saturday, Sunday, so they get the Saturday
revenue. Yeah.
Right.
Well, also
back to back.
The NBA. Yeah, just my big issue with a lot of these pro leagues is there's just too many damn games in a season. There's just too many. Baseball is just ridiculous. 162 games. Like,
which by the way, 14 days off. Okay, 162 games with only 14 days off.
Exactly. And that, I guess that doesn't include the week for the All-Star game, though. Plus the All-Star weekend. Week. Yeah.
But during the season, except for the fourth, but for the 60 guys in the All-Star game, they don't get it off.
Yeah, they don't. That's why I don't blame them for not wanting to participate. I'll be there, like, do it once or twice or something like that. I get it when people don't want to do that. You want some time off in the middle of the season, especially if you're in contention.
Yeah, the home run derby kind of thing. Why should I try to hit a home run? So I be home resting myself so I can play for my team. I get all that. And so I totally agree with you. I think that an 82 game hockey season is ridiculously long. I mean, they're playing almost as a lot, right?
Yeah.
The NBA final was on June the 19th, and the Stanley Cup played another week after the NBA game.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like this, right? And so And they start up again in September. I totally agree with you. I think, but they've gotten themselves into such a bind now. You can't shorten the season because you drop revenue. What do you do?
Well, that's just it. They have to look more into the formula that the NFL has built. The NFL is a television show now. It's not the revenue they get at the stadiums is just it's the chump change. It's the pocket change. If people don't show up to these stadiums, they don't care. That's why we have two teams in LA now. You know, their concern isn't fans filling the stadiums. No, it was getting the owners more money. You know, because because Kroenke financed the stadium in LA. They said, you're moving. You're going to LA. And now that San Diego made the decision to move too, they're like, well, you're going to pay him rent. He's going to make more money. So it's a better thing to look at on TV. So
The TV cut, right? The TV cut now is the TV cut is $275 million, right?
yep. That's I don't think that's the new TV cut because they just upgraded. They just upped the contracts, didn't they? Or is it due next year?
I think it's next year. This year's 2017 will be 275, then it goes up again. So yeah, it's getting close to 300 million. So they basically run a team. It's basically run a team on the super front, right?
Exactly.
Bowl games, college bowl games are TV shows now. You look at the stands, there's nobody there.
Yeah.
Nobody cares. ESPN owns the rights to all but I think 3 or 4. Okay. And so the television show, it's content. It's programming content. That's all it is.
It looks like the network deals run through 2022. The paid contribution is a total of $20.4 billion to broadcast NFL games. The breakdown is roughly CBS 3.73 billion, NBC 3.6 billion, Fox 4.27 billion, and ESPN 8.8 billion. That 8.8 billion is huge. That is the NFL's way of putting ESPN in check as a sports brand. Because a few years back, we knew Monday Night Football was the game of the week, which it isn't anymore. It's the Sunday night game. And then even after that, they introduced a Thursday game. So even the big in-conference games are on Thursday nights now, not on Monday. So Monday, they kind of stuck it to ESPN because the ESPN was growing as a brand off of the NFL, off Monday Night Football. So they kind of stuck it to them there by rearranging the schedule so they weren't getting as good of games, and they're making them pay more for broadcasting as well. So it's interesting the way that they kind of work with ESPN, but also put them in a position where they are paying more than anybody else. And actually, Fox probably has the best deal out of all of them, simply for the fact that they get, they're getting the NFC games instead of the AFC games.
That's the premier package, right?
Yeah.
You've got teams in all the major markets. So, although you got LA back, I don't see here in LA.
No, the TV ratings for LA for the Rams in LA was worse than the TV ratings for it in St. Louis.
Well, of course, but that's tough. If they were any good, maybe it's different.
Well, I guess that could be part of the reason. Well, they you know,
Now they have a high school sophomore coach.
well, you know that they were. I mean, what could we expect? They said, "Hey, Jeff Fisher, you were completely mediocre. Here's a 2-year extension." Oh wait, no, you're fired. Like, they're like, "Oh, the villagers got pitchforks and fire. Oh, we have to fire him." It's like Ron Burgundy. Ron Burgundy, I'm gonna have to fire you. I'm gonna have to fire you too. Boom, 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 boom. No, it's what you said. All right. I think it's that time to get into Super Bowl. A little bit of Super Bowl talk.
Okay, a little bit.
A little bit.
I don't have much time left, so a little bit. Yeah.
All right.
Okay,
So,
come on, let's discuss what you said. 25-point lead. Can't jump the clock. What do you got? Got two running backs. Run the clock out, and they got to shoot, and they thought they could, take a single away, and they lost sight of the end prize, which was put your egos in check, which was a football game. And they lost sight of that. They got caught up in themselves, and they went, "Oh, we're just going to try to bury him." And
you know, if the Patriots don't get 3 holding calls in a row, defensive holding calls in a row,
no question. The fix was in on that. There was an officiating aspect of this, but you can run clock so easy in the NFL, right? It's not like college where clock stops for everything.
yeah.
The assistant coach is dental floss, and you got to stop the clock. It's the first down, you stop the clock. Whatever. NFL, they run that clock no matter what. If the guy goes out of bounds, he was actually facing backwards. Oh, you run the clock. I mean, that's how it is. It's Kyle Shanahan thinking. What was Dan Quinn thinking? What was they thinking?
Well,
It was a train wreck.
there was a lot of. It was very clumsy on the final drive, but even before the final drive, run the ball, set up for a field goal, let Brian kick the field goal.
I'm talking way earlier.
Yeah, exactly.
13 minutes left in the game.
Exactly.
I'm talking think ahead. Grind this clock down. And they had the team to do it. I mean, okay, what did they do until a 30-yard out?
I don't know.
Right? I mean, what were they doing? I think Kyle Shanahan complained to San Francisco at halftime. I don't think
I had to interview a coach. I know. Watch him.
Things like that. So, they chose that. I mean, okay, nothing against Brady, nothing anyone from the Patriots got Quinn County got checked by Edelman.
Yeah, that was like Matt Davidson and against Missouri. Was that 97? Yeah, 97. And it was kicked up in the air. He caught it just. Yeah.
But that doesn't even matter at Atlanta just taking care of this. I mean, you got to be kidding me. How do you go 20 minutes? Both sides of the ball only goes flat. They played prevent. They thought they had the game won.
Ask Arkansas. Well, that's what happens when you have young guys. Yeah, they think it's over. And they come out and score to start out they get the 3-and-out right away. They get a 3-and-out right away from New England. They get the ball back. They score. They go up 28-3. And now it's like, oh, okay, cool. And New England missed a field goal too. It's like.
Bowl in 14 years, or whatever it was, without not quitting. He's not going to quit.
Yeah.
But Atlanta quit. So, well, I got to run. Hey, the Mike Carey interview, man, that was good stuff. I can't wait to re-listen to that on the podcast. That is going to be that was a little bit of an unexpected depth, don't you think?
Oh, absolutely. And that the podcasted version of the game will be available with the same link that you'll listen to the show tonight live. If you're listening live, or what you can do is you can download the Spreaker app, listen to it on your phone, or go over to thechtonsports.com, click on the listen link in the upper left-hand corner. You can listen to the entirety of that interview, the Erica Edelstein from last week, Lee Steinberg from the week before, or any of the shows, really. All over there. We're about 60 seconds from going over into the overtime segment. So, appreciate it, Kevin.
All right. Great night. We'll talk to you again next week.
All right. Awesome. Kevin Krest, ladies and gentlemen. All right. We're going to the overtime segment. If you want to get in on this segment, you got about 45 seconds ish to call in. 347-237-5539 is the call-in number for the show. All right. I got a few messages over here on the message boards I will get to. I'm going to go to a quick commercial break. We kind of plowed through that here earlier in the show. So I'll go to a quick commercial break. On the other side of that break, I'm going to get a little bit more into the Super Bowl, my take on that, the Patriots and the Falcons, where I see them going next year. So stay tuned. You're listening to the Cold Hard Truth on Sports here on the Go Long Media channel on blogtalkradio.com.
10 seconds.
Catch the Bucks Source Radio Show every Sunday night at 7:30 p.m. on the MRN broadcast channel on Blog Talk Radio. We have James Bell going over the news, notes, and announcements in the quarterback. And we also take calls from people that want to talk about the topics that are covered over the week in the sport. So once again, catch the Bucks Source Radio Show every Sunday night at 7:30 p.m. on the MRN broadcasting channel on Blog Talk Radio.
A long time ago, there was an ancient prophecy from the outermost edges of space that knows no boundaries. This fall, Earth as we know it, will never be the same. One man, one weapon. Critics are calling it the best comedy of the year. From the makers of the internet, this is his last chance to save the world. But then, the world does not exist.
Man, forget all that. Just download my special, man, or get the DVD when it's available.
They will search for answers.
The link's posted below.
RichardReeseLive.com. All right. Welcome back here to the Cold Hard Truth on Sports here on the Go Long Media channel on blogtalkradio.com. Thank you all for listening in wherever you're listening in from. A lot of people over on YouTube Live, Google Hangouts. Guess that's the other name for it, right? So appreciate you all tuning in. Spreaker has been great. I know you over on Spreaker, actually, but here are the commercials now. So we got some of that stuff worked out. Love you guys over there. iTunes, SoundCloud, Sonos, and many others. Who did I forget? Blog Talk. Can't forget Blog Talk Radio. So I appreciate you guys listening in. During the break there, I did connect with Mike Carey again. Appreciate him coming on tonight. And I want to reiterate, go out, get his book, Bad News, The Turbulent Life of Marvin Barnes, Pro Basketballs. So, Pro Basketballs, Marvin Barnes. So, it's a good, he gave a good synopsis of kind of introducing into the book. We had him on for an hour tonight. We do a little bit longer interviews here on the show. Whenever we can get people on, we will. So he's added, he's one in the books. Definitely would love to have him back on. I look forward to reading the book as well. So you can get that. I know it is available over on Amazon. Looks like the Kindle version $12.99, hardcover is $15.31. So go ahead and check that out. Get it, read it. Also, Kevin Krest, co-host. While you're over on Amazon, go ahead and bundle that with the P.K. Frazier novels, which are equally as awesome, full of their own history. And by all three of them over on Amazon as well. So go over and check those out. And I've never written a book, so read theirs. I highly recommend it. I'm gonna have Kevin write my foreword because I can't get. That's funny. Here's actually just talking about books. I know we're here in the overtime segment. Here's a book I've been reading lately. It's a little bit older book, but authored by Ted Sudquist. He's been a guest on the show a couple times too, so appreciate his book. Again, business people, this is a good book for business people too. It's not a football book, football references, but it's he was also in the military, Air Force Academy, I believe. Not just in sports. So, all right, awesome. So we got a few messages over here, some questions. How do I consider Klay Thompson the MVP of the Maverick of the Warriors, and not Durant or Steph Curry? Well, here's the thing: is I think the Warriors still working on the chemistry of having Kevin Durant there. It's still something new for them. They haven't figured out how to do it yet. It's not quite there yet. But Klay Thompson is a clutch shooter. He has size. He can dribble. And he's always working in and out of whatever system that they're applying. He is a guy that, like Kevin said, he's probably a guy that should be coming off the bench with the talents that they have, but because of his uniqueness, he doesn't have to come off. He can start. He can play a lot of minutes. Steph Curry, they run him as a point, but he's not a point. He's an off guard. Klay Thompson's an off guard. And then, you got Kevin Durant, he's an off forward. So it's complex in a way, the way that the team is set up. They're more ball movement and great spacing get higher percentage shots. Kevin Durant hasn't caught on to that just yet. And that's something struggling with. But Klay Thompson has remained steady. He's reliable. He's been able to do whatever they've asked him to do, and then a little something. So I think all around, I think he's a better basketball player than Steph Curry. But again, that's based on watching the games, seeing him, evaluating what he's providing to the team versus what Curry does. Again, Curry is a tremendous shooter. He's such a deadly shooter. He's good at creating space for himself and scoring. He's a good distributor as well. So, he is a top guy and shouldn't shy away from that at all. But as far as value, I think Klay Thompson provides more value because if you take away Steph Curry from that lineup, you're going to be giving more shots to Durant and more shots to Klay Thompson. I don't think anybody would disagree. Either of them having more shots is going to be a terrible thing. And replacing him with another active point guard. So it could still work. You could put in somebody like a Derek Fisher, when he wasn't a coach. A player like that would work too, who can make shots when needed, but is primarily a distributor, not a scorer. So that would still work too. But on the other end, Klay Thompson works out more because, again, the flexibility that he has of how they're able to use him, how he's able to go out there and ball, So, yeah, that's, I understand the skepticism. You guys, you're going to have media hype him up. And, yes, if we're talking about who are the best players, yeah, Curry and Durant and LeBron, they're in the top, top 5 in the league. Yeah, absolutely. You can say that. But that doesn't necessarily make them more valuable to the team. So, see, that's the thing is, like, when we have a concept of value, where does that really come from? Is it popularity? Is that the value? Or is it how that person is contributing to winning? I think he's higher value. I want to get back into the football, though. Back into the Super Bowl. One sec. I want to get back into the Super Bowl, though, because there's a few things we kind of skimmed over there. Yes, the Falcons had a huge miss. There was about, I don't think they scored in the last 20-some minutes of the game. 21 minutes, something like that. Not scoring there is what killed it for them. I think they came out and figured it worked so well in the first half, we'll do it in the second half. But what was helping out with the scoring in the first half was so much of the run game. The run game was there. It was providing the run game working was providing avenues to get those outs, 30-yard outs and whatnot. Freeman played well. I don't see where anybody can honestly look at that game and say, Dante Freeman lost us the game. No. Should he have picked up a block? Yeah, he got that chip. Maybe that would have helped. but maybe not, because even if they don't take the sack there to push him to, 3rd and 33, was it something like that? They still were not running clock. The play selection still was not putting him in a position to win. That's the thing, is in the NFL, it's so easy to run clock. Your play clock's longer. The clock doesn't stop for first downs. There is no rush in the NFL. And playing up tempo to run out the clock is not gonna help you. I think that if they would have switched over to higher percentage, shorter throws, and go with more some draws, screen plays, and stuff like that, something to keep the ball in, between the hashes, or inside the numbers at the widest, and you stay away from the sidelines altogether. Play like the sidelines are a penalty. You didn't see that, though. Again, I don't want to discount the Patriots defense. Put them in those situations. The front line was starting to get there, and putting Matt Ryan in positions that clearly were not favorable for them to win. So I'm not at all discounting the Patriots defense. The offense's will to keep going. Edelman played out of his mind. Hogan played out of his mind. Mitchell played well. Did what he was asked for. Bennett, he played admirably. He could have played better. They're going to take a long, hard look at some of those drops. And that was a big part of the issue with the Patriots offense in the first half of the game. There's a lot of drop passes. There's a lot of drop passes in that game by Patriots receivers. So that's something that's probably going to really get a look at in the offseason. And that's what I want to segue into now. Getting into the offseason. I think these two teams are going to look a bit different. Starting with Atlanta. Last year, after last year's Super Bowl, when the Broncos won, I tweeted out, the Broncos might take a page out of the Marlins playbook and blow it up. Well, it wasn't so much blown up as gutted. So essentially, I guess it was blown up. What I was getting at when I said that is the team's going to look a lot different. They're not going to overpay guys. Again, Von Miller is still there. He's one of the best players in the league, and he got paid what he deserved to be paid. And that's good. You want to keep those cornerstone players. They lost their starting quarterback in Peyton Manning, retirement. Brock Osweiler, free agency. Paxton Lynch wasn't ready. And the whole host of other guys just wasn't what they needed. So half their defensive line gone, Ware injured. So it wasn't the same team by far. So you couldn't expect so much to really get all out of that. That would have been, I think the expectation for them to return was too much. That's why I said what I said. And they did for an essential purpose. It was blown up, gutted, whatever you want to call it, last year. I think we might see something similar. Let me pull Freeney's contract with Atlanta. Dante Freeman we're probably going to see a holdout from him. He's going to want some max pay. He clearly was as one of their best players. Let me go back over here for Atlanta. Who else they had come up in free agency? Pull the New England up one. New England. Yeah, nobody's worried about that guy. New England has quite a bit. I mean, Bartavius Mingo, he's coming up. But they do short-term deals with a lot of guys. Martellus Bennett's coming up. Here's the thing. And I'm going to wait on that. I'm going to wait on New England. I got something for you for New England. Atlanta doesn't really have... Atlanta really doesn't have a ton of guys coming up here in free agency. Just Matt Schaub, their backup. That's not a big deal. Yeah, they really don't have a lot. A couple offensive linemen, but guys, it looks like it'd be pretty easy to sign. But the thing is, like Dwight Freeney, he has a little time left on his contract, but we don't know how many years he's going to play. We don't know if he has a lot left in the tank. You know, they have a lot of cap room. The highest paid player is that it? I mean, I'm just taking a look over here. I mean, that's not all their players. Pull them all up. Yeah. I mean, they have Jacob Tammy, free agent coming up. See, that's the thing is, what we're going to see out of this, Tammy may not sign again. So then they'll be left with Toilolo, who was their starter anyways. Kyle Shanahan liked 2 tight end systems, but we might see that. Tyler Gabriel, he is a restricted free agent, so they'll probably keep him. He worked well. Unless San Francisco comes calling for him. Yeah, Eric Weems, he will probably be gone. He's 31. He's 31, and he's getting paid $3 million. Yeah, he's probably going to be gone. I would expect him to be gone. But they do have some age. It's younger players, but they do have some age. But we're seeing a turnover. The quarterback coach is going to be gone. Offensive coordinator, gone. You may have a different backup quarterback. We're going to see what happens with Dante Freeman. He might hold out. Dwight Freeney could be gone. There is... Oh, let me pull that back up there. I mean, these are all free agents. Everybody's on this list is free. Is this a whole free agent list? Okay. I wanted the whole team, but that's okay. So, yeah, they have a good number of free agents on the team, either restricted or unrestricted free agents. But the big point is losing your offensive coordinator, which they've already said that they're going to hire Steve Sarkisian, who was an offensive quality control assistant for most of last year to the national championship game. Moved up to offensive coordinator. Before that was a head coach at USC. And before that, literally took a dumpster fire in Washington from no wins to 5 to 9 before he went to USC. And got that program going back in the right direction before Peterson came in and did what he did the last couple seasons there too. A couple, 9-10 win seasons, knowing that, was an 11 win season this year. So he's obviously a good choice. I think Sarkisian, I like him as a play caller. I think he's going to do good there in Atlanta. He's a West Coast guy. I think he's going to fit pretty seamlessly in with what Kyle Shanahan plans on or was kind of doing. I don't think there's going to be too much fall off there, too much change. They'll be able to work him in pretty seamlessly. And I think, he could end up being a pretty good offensive coordinator for a number of years. And we may even see Sarkisian as a head coach in the NFL at some point if he has, a few years of a track record of success. Because to see what he did at Washington, that's really, you can't discount that. It's a major conference, it's a major school, revitalizing them. Feel like he's starting to go somewhere with SC, but having an addiction issue, not being able to take control of it, not really handling that situation well. But, it's last year. Gave him a window into coaching back at the level he wants to be at. And he might actually be better off in the NFL. The thing is, people ask, is it college? Is it NFL? Is it college, NFL? You deal with a lot of different things in either end. It's a lot of different rules either way, interaction with players. You're handcuffed either way. Now, in college, it really is year round because you're recruiting. Because you got recruiting. You got young guys, and you got a team of 110 players. So, I think 110 at home, and it was 85 can travel, 75 can travel, something like that. Way too many. More than we'll even see the game, So only having 53 could be a blessing in disguise. So let's see where he does here. It's going to be kind of this might be his rehab, if you want to call it that. So I look forward to that. But I think this team's going to look a little bit different next year, and they could have some struggles. I don't think we're going to see the same fall off because they don't. Yes, Dwight Freeney is unrestricted free. Thank you for getting me that. Thank you. He's an unrestricted free agent. He's making $1 million, so he may be back. He's 36, though. Sean Weatherspoon, he's 29. $1.5 million. Courtney Upshaw, 27. 1.25. Eric Weems, 31. Yeah, I'm pretty sure he's going to be gone. At 1.25, at $3 million, he's gone. 16 would be, yeah, okay. So its team's going to look different. I think they're going to try to retain their nucleus. Dante Freeman's going to give a bit different look on that. Garoppolo. Okay, yes, I'm getting into that right now. Do I think Garoppolo goes to Chicago or to the Browns, or he stays? If I was Jimmy Garoppolo and I have a choice to start in Chicago or Cleveland and be overpaid, or sit behind Tom Brady and wait. Well, what I would do is I would get a 3 to 5 year deal, right? A fat one that's front end loaded, right? You hear me out on this? I get a 5 to 7, yeah, probably a 5 year deal, front end loaded for the first 2 or 3, right? Just guarantee the crap out of it. And more incentive driven on the back end. Because what that would do, if I was looking for an open, you can renegotiate, restructure that contract to get more guaranteed money as bonus on the back end if you perform well. If you're okay, you can also set that up to where it would be attractive to a team like New England if you want to go back, because it's not hitting their cap and it's more incentive driven and they're giving you bonus money. See, the thing is, like, the Patriots will pay for value. If they see the value there, they're going to go after it. So you're making it more attractive to go back there if you wanted to. If in 3 years Tom Brady decides to retire. So that could be part of your play. But if there's a lot of money on the table in this league, it's tough. I mean, he has 2. I mean, it's his 3rd year in the league. So he has 2 already. I mean, he has a world. He won the trophy already. That's what you're looking for, right? Now you want the big contract. It usually comes the other way, but he's fortunate enough to be that way. So Garoppolo should go for the big money. Whoever is going to pay him the most. I cannot hesitate to say that more. Whoever is going to pay you the most. He may not be a guy that's in the league for a long time. It may end up being a backup later on down the road, or just one of those guys kind of like Ryan Fitzpatrick that just kind of hangs around. He's not bad, but he's really not great. So I think the Bears definitely have to have a different quarterback next year. Depending on the quarterback and the decisions they decide to go, Alshon Jeffries may resign, but I wouldn't be surprised if he was gone as well. And they may look for some different skilled positions and spend money elsewhere. Maybe beefing up the offensive line, trying to find a quarterback, getting a little bit more depth along the defensive line to put pressure on, to put some more pressure on the offense. So it's going to be interesting to see what they do there. But I tweeted this out today. I think the most movable piece on the Patriots offense is Rob Gronkowski. Why? Rob Gronkowski is, obviously he's struggled with some injuries here the last few years, basically his entire career. His contract is through 2020. So he has 3 years left. Okay. His cap hit is next year's the highest. His dead money is 642. So if I could get him You know, maybe he'll restructure, maybe not. But right now, his cap hit is actually really high. 6.75, 11, and 12. So he's not getting another contract. This is his max contract. This is the only big contract he'll get in his career. So it's because the dead money. Okay, look at it like this. This is where I'm trying to explain it. This year was 12.15 million in dead money. So if they cut him this year, they have to pay him over $12 million. They keep him, get what they can out of him. Next year, they'd pay $6 million for him to walk, to trade him away, cut him, if they cut him, which I doubt they would do. So with 3 years, it's a good amount of control. Look at teams around the league that maybe San Francisco, that have cap, that have some draft picks, maybe. They would be willing to maybe part with those picks. Probably not San Francisco to get. They wouldn't give up the first, but they would because they're too high up. But I think there's a team in the league that may give up a first round pick for Gronkowski. Maybe Jason Witten's getting up there in age. And this young Cowboys team has some cap space. If Witten decides to call it a career, maybe the Cowboys look at Gronkowski. I mean, they're towards the bottom of the first round. Most of their needs are on defense. Maybe even in positions where they can find them in the second round. So, Cowboys could be one of those teams that's in that position. Another one might be the Texans. They have who they thought was their quarterback, and they don't know, so they're going to be continuing to look for something. But they really don't have a tight end threat. And you have a team that does like to pass the ball. And some more viable weapons for the Texans could have been what would have helped get them past the Patriots. Maybe. You'll have a healthy J.J. Watt back next year. So, again, Gronkowski's one of those guys. He's high value enough around the league that they should be able to get something first round plus for him. They don't get the most out of him. They can win without him. But if you lose him, if you get rid of Gronkowski, right, then the question is, what do you pay Bennett? He's gonna want more than 5. So next year he's an unrestricted free agent next year because he just signed a 1-year deal. Well, actually, he was on the back end of 1 year. Yeah, 1 year. So back end of a 4-year. They got the last year of a 4-year deal from the Bears. But do you sign him to a 1-year deal, 2-year deal, franchise tag him? There's a lot of options that you have there with Martellus Bennett. And Martellus Bennett he might want to stay around. Maybe not. We'll see. So I think if you secure Bennett, you can move Gronk it really doesn't matter which way they go with Garoppolo. They'll probably if Garoppolo is still there next year. Again, he's an unrestricted free agent in 2018, so this is the last year there. He's making $1 million, 1.1. You trade him away. Get something of value for him. Because if you re-sign him, I don't think he's going to take much of a discount. The Bucs, I don't see the Bucs keeping Mike Glennon either, by the way. So, Tampa fans, they're not going to re-sign him. He's gonna make a chunk of change somewhere else. Especially with Brock Osweiler making what he made last year. But I think Gronk is probably the most movable guy on the Patriots offense. The Patriots do have a good amount of free agents, though. So that's just looking over that tonight is kind of one of those things that makes you really think about it. What they're going to end up doing next year. And by the way, Tampa fans, Cameron Brate did great. His tight end coach, Coach Cam Ibram, left to be San Francisco. He went to San Francisco. Now I don't know if Cameron Brate can duplicate what he did. He did a lot. 7 touchdowns, 8 touchdowns this year, making about $500,000. I think the Bucs are going to be looking at tight end. I don't know where yet, but it's definitely going to be one of those things that they will be looking at coming up. And there's not out of the value, top value guys. There's not a ton out there on the market that are free agents. So let me get to a couple more of these questions. We only got 10 minutes or so left in the show. No. Nope. Not dignifying that one with a response. No, I'm not. Okay. I'm not a LeBron apologist. I'm not a LeBron hater. The show is called The Cold Hard Truth on Sports. I'm going to give you the cold hard truth. Listen, fanboys, you don't have to like what I say. You don't. It's fine. But I'm going to give you my take. Real sports take. Real sports talk. No, I like LeBron. He's a good player. I don't like the way he approaches some things. I think schematically as a team, he could be used differently, and so could Kevin Love. So could Kyrie. He said he wants that distributor because Kyrie's not a point guard and neither is he. So they want that point guard in there to distribute them the ball. What he's asking is to find them somebody that can create space on the floor for better shots. The thing is, they're thinking that you need another playmaker. But really what he needs is what he's asking for, but doesn't understand he's really asking for space and better shots. Somebody to come in to take time off of his hands so he can play less minutes. Listen, Kevin Love can play more minutes. You can leave him at the 4 and move him in different areas. You don't have to. I mean, we saw it in overtime the other night. LeBron doesn't have to be on the floor. Kyrie can take the show. You know, you got Tristan getting the boards down low. You just got to rely on Shumpert to make some shots, to make some things happen, to have Korver out there taking shots. So you have the staff that you need there. You just need to figure out how you're going to play together. And that's the problem. They aren't running the offense maybe the way that would suit them the best. Is that Lou's fault? Is that Tehran's fault? No, I don't think it's necessarily completely his fault. I think it's been shown enough that, you know, a coach is going to have so much success. You know, in pro sports, that's the thing is you have egos, you have people that are leaders dealing with the best in the world. If they feel that they know it better, you know, the quarterback's going to call an audible. LeBron's going to say, I'm going to ISO him and I'm going to take it to the basket. You know, they're going to call their own stuff. And they're going to run it the way they see it working best. I mean, you even saw Brady when he came out just before the half. They threw a short screen pass behind the line to Martellus Bennett, he was tackled for a loss. It was an interesting play call. It just didn't work at all. He came out visibly frustrated. Him and McDaniel kind of, you know, had some dialogue on the sideline. So, but here's the thing is, LeBron just wants to win. And he thinks that he doesn't have staff to do that. The fact is, he does have the staff to do that. They just need to utilize what they have better. I don't think LeBron knows what he has on his team. He does have pretty much everything he asked for outside of Carmelo Anthony, which Griffin doesn't want to trade for, and I don't blame him. You know, fine. I mean, you have your nucleus from your championship team. You know, you don't have to have another star to, you know, you don't need an all-star team to win in the NBA. Now, Golden State they've kept their nucleus for the most part. Maybe even upgraded. Is he worried about that? Maybe so. Let's see here. Yeah, the Cowboys. I think the Cowboys are going to do decent next year. They still have that great offensive line. We'll see what Dak Prescott does. Ezekiel Elliott does next year. They'll sign some guys at the running back position. They will. No, I wouldn't mind if they traded Des Bryant. You know, that's the thing is, I don't think Des Bryant really gives them so much more. He's a movable guy, in my opinion. They might be able to find somebody else. I think he's a good receiver, but I think he's movable. Let's see. What else here? Nope. Not going to get into golf. Yes, I'm happy Tiger's back. I did not watch it. That's a good question. Tampa next year. The Rays. Okay. I'm not going to get too deep into this because we're still a few months even from spring training. But no matter how bad, maybe from the surface or on paper, the Rays may seem, it's tough for me to count them out. They've overaccomplished with what they've had pretty much every year. And these were the first 2 years that they didn't have 80 wins. In some time, I think it's been like 5 or 6 years that they had 80 plus wins. They had the longest streak going. Was Joe Madden part of it? I think so. Changes in the front office? I think so. But, when we're not spending money on players, which they can, the Rays get a lot of money from the revenue sharing because they don't win. Also, the TV rights. Again, the TV rights aren't as lucrative as in other sports, but that stuff's coming up here pretty soon. So we should see more of that. Again, baseball's also a local sport for the most part. It's a local sport. So they're driving that from the local sport. There's not much of a national buzz on those contracts as it does with the NBA or the NFL. So I think there's way too many games in baseball. They need to shorten it significantly. If they cut it in half, that would be great. Because if not, they need to have. Because if you shorten the season, you take out less games, shorten the season. Now you're putting the World Series kind of preseason football instead of in the heart of the beginning of the football season. I think sports should work around that. Don't entrap yourself into that. I think the NBA does a good job. They're pretty much by themselves, except for the beginning of baseball season. Again, the first 2-3 months of baseball season is just like, oh yeah, and then you get to like, now you're in June, you're like, is the All-Star game yet? And it's after the All-Star game, yeah. It's like, man, when's the postseason? 162 games. It's just so many games. 14 days off, not including the All-Star break. That's not a lot of time off. When baseball players go to work from March till August, more than the average person, they're working 6 days a week. That's just, it's crazy. It's just too long of a season. I just think that if Major League Baseball reduces the number of games, right, and maybe add a couple, okay, because the wild card game they just added was a 1-game play-in, which isn't a wild card game. Expand that. You need to have that a 7-game series, or at least 5, because you're not playing as much regular season, so you can afford to play postseason. Expand your postseason. The most money is going to be made in your postseason because those are more meaningful games. So, and that's because the argument that I get a lot for not expanding the college football playoff to 6 or 8 is that now you've delegitimized the regular season. That's not the case because half the teams in the NFL make the playoffs. It hasn't delegitimized the playoffs at all. Look who we ended up with. The Falcons, who's the hottest team going into the end of the year, and the Patriots, who is consistently there at the end of the year. Every year. So it's to say that expanding a postseason would delegitimize the regular season is nuts. Baseball just has way too many games to begin with. So if you cut it back to 120 games, you split that right down the middle, it makes it easy. 60 games. So you're losing 21 games at home and 21 on the road. You're losing it. It's gone. You're losing 42 games. That's fine. It's not going to affect the play. You're not, the players are going to be healthier. They can get a couple days. You just almost by a factor of 3, you've almost tripled the number of days that they have off. If we're worried about these rotations and these players and pitch counts and, their knees and stuff like that, concussions, cut it back. 120 games is good. That's still a long time. And then expand your playoffs. Expand the postseason to meaningful stuff. Yeah. So that's it for the questions. Be sure to tune in. Yes, To the Half was off on Monday and Tuesday. I was saving the Super Bowl stuff for today for this show. So we'll be back tomorrow, To the Half. So stay tuned in. Be tuned in here on YouTube, on Spreaker, Blog Talk, SoundCloud, wherever we are. Head on over to thechtonsports.com to read all the articles and everything we have up over there, and to listen to the podcast versions of the shows. Again, that's thechtonsports.com. You can follow the show at thechtonsports. You can follow me at Matt Long Sports and my co-host Kevin at Kevin Krest. Again, as you can see here, with a K. But that's all we got for tonight here on the Cold Hard Truth on Sports. I am out.